on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brand. As always, I have the leaders with me. Mariam Lunge, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Author.
Oh, thank you very much.
How's everything?
Good. Thank you so much for yesterday, ladies. I saw your post and your repost, and people are already going on Amazon to order the book.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
We like
and I got a review from Mariah's daughter. Because they are my, that's my target audience. And Mariah said she read the book, she did the activities, so I'm so excited.
Yes. She sat down, so she finished it. She comes to me, the crossword, I don't know. I don't know. Calm down, I don't know. How are you doing, Nima?
Today is 4th of January. And so it's Gratitude Day for my gift, my partner, my best friend, Gufran. Happy birthday.
Oh, your daughter.
Gufran is 9 today.
It's Gufran's birthday today.
You didn't remind us
It's
now.
like I was hearing the gist, but you know what I said? I the conversation this morning. So she woke up this morning and she was just shocked at the matured conversation. Maybe she wanted to be a girl, but I'm happy. I'm always grateful for Gufran. Life would have been tough without her. For me.
She's very helpful.
She's my hands-on, personal person kind of girl. I know that I'm pushing her too much to be an adult early, but I don't have another person. And so, you're everything. Yesterday I got home, I was tired, and she was like, what do you want to cook? I was like, God, thank you for this girl. So I'm grateful for her. I wish you a happy birthday, Gufran.
Happy birthday.
Oluda Zibiri, I'm so happy for you. I wish you all the goodness that your life can bring. I pray for you. Continue to be the coolness of my eyes.
Oh, that's so sweet, Gufran. We love you. Happy birthday. I mean you.
I'm good though. So I got locked in. The challenges that Magodo phase 2 residents are facing hasn't been resolved. They still face the threat of losing their lives. I mean, their houses. These houses are built on land that have CO4. And there's a threat that they might lose the houses. The houses might get demolished. That is still on ground. And so they don't have, a lot of the landlords don't have peace of mind. I know someone who has 3 buildings that are marked for demolition. All those 3 buildings are built on land that has CO4. And this is like her life plan. And so today they locked up the gates. I had to walk out of the gate and took a bike. The Magodo Resident Association, MRA. And the reason they did that was because they wanted a solidarity from all the residents, because some of us that were not affected might feel like, you're disturbing my life. You know, but when I got to the gate and I listened, a lot more empathy ensued from me that, yes, it might disrupt my schedule a bit, but these are people like me who have invested their entire life savings into owning a home, and then that house is being threatened. And they want more from the Lagos State Governor. They want the Lagos State Governor to step in because he's the only one that has the authority to do something. It's beyond any other person they are passing them to.
Anyways, how you doing though? Good.
I'm grateful to God. I'm good, actually. Really, really good.
Lost your earrings today.
As usual. Lost my earrings as usual.
I lost one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very unlike me.
Very unlike you. Good. All right, let's go.
No, you're sorry. I took all the banter. I didn't even let you gist anything.
I never had you. I never have gist.
You look very nice today.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's go on a quick break. When we return, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're moving on now to The Nation. Ibadan chiefs disagree over succession. Ban Twitter meets conditions.
Okay.
Report me to EFCC. Akeredolu dares PDP. OPEC worried over threats to release the 70 million barrels of crude oil from reserves. Buhari governors ACF orders mourn Tofa. Lagos Red-Blue Rail Line project still on course. And DBN 6 stakeholders don't nod to raise 100 billion naira bond. Okay, the major headline. Who has that story?
I have the major headline, and already Wahala has started over the Olubadan's vacancy now. According to The Nation, the former AG of Oyo State has written to the governor not to accept the nomination of the senator. Fortunately, I didn't take pictures of the story. I'm talking of memory. To accept the nomination of the senator that, is the highest chief. Because at the time when the former governor did an upgrade of all chiefs to Oba, this senator benefited, you know, and he was one of those who sued to ensure that their crown that they were giving, that upgrade of all of them, that they didn't lose it. And now, because he's the most senior next in line, he was one trying to get that benefit. So the Osolubado, who was a Ladoja, is a lawyer now, the former Attorney General, has written to the governor saying, no way. This person, the rule of Obaship in Ibadan does not allow a crowned person to become Olubadan. So it has to remain a high chief to become that. And because this person accepted that upgrade to Obaship, then he cannot benefit from that. So I'm just saying that sometimes when we are supporting some causes, be careful. Because, you know, we have foresight and be careful.
All right, so you have another story?
I have a human interest story.
Yes.
So these two young men have been arrested. One, Wasiu and Samuel. So Wasiu and Samuel were fighting. This was New Year's Day. And passers-by heard why they were there. It was a serious fight because Wasiu had paid Samuel 5,000 naira to help assassinate his pregnant wife. And as advance payment, the full fee was 10,000, but he gave him 5,000. And till today, as we are saying, wife is still alive. So he went to go and meet Samuel, give me my money back, and Samuel refused. Meanwhile, this Wasiu had tried to kill that woman on 2 occasions. He would get food for her from an eatery and give it to her. She would not eat it for some reason, so he now decided to take it a step further, and this man did not deliver. They said that they used to be married, and then they fell out, that's he and his wife, and then he got married to another person. And while being married to this person, he met up with his wife again, and they started seeing each other on the side. She got pregnant. He asked her to take it to abort it. She refused to do it, and that's why he planned to kill her. God just loves her, thankfully. I mean, he had tried so many ways, and finally,
that baby is only your
Let me take Twitter, and I'll come to OPEC in a minute. So, finally, it seems that Twitter will meet the conditions that Nigeria has laid for it. So we should be having the ban lifted very soon, according to federal government. So also, the federal government is saying that the NBC is likely to review the code so that to include Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and other social media platforms. And the fact that one of the things that delayed Twitter from resuming in Nigeria was because they didn't meet the condition of starting an office. And they said that it wasn't part of their 2021 budget.
Okay.
And they were included in 2022 budget to actually establish an office. So they're going to pay their taxes, open an office in Nigeria, have a country representative, register with the CAC. They'll be sensitive to national security issues, train Nigerian IT. So hopefully very soon. We've been hearing hopefully for a while, but hopefully that indeed they will start this year. So that we can begin to tweet those of us.
And then what we ask of them to do.
Those of us that complied with the rule, that
yes,
we not tweet.
We are not tweeting.
Plenty people have been tweeting despite everything.
So those of us that comply. So OPEC.
Yes, so the OPEC, there's current threat that because of the increase in demand for oil, that some people that have reserved about 70 million barrels of crude oil will be releasing their reserve, and that it might flood the market. So the worry is, my worry, and actually most economists' worry, is that Nigerian budget is pegged at a specific amount of money. If they release this 70 million barrel of crude oil, the price will go down, which might affect our expected income. And so we should prepare ourselves properly for the shock that might come up, because they are threatening to release their oil because the demand is going really high.
Moving on quickly to the Punch. New Year celebrations. Experts project high infection rate as Nigerians shun protocols at fun spots. Picture of Governor of Lagos State as the Lagos train service will begin this year. Governor Sanwo-Olu. Man exchange blows, arrested as hired killer fails to eliminate pregnant expert. I think Mariam took that story. Last month's thugs brutalized driver, impound boss. Agency ignores driver's petition. APC tackles Shehu Sani over governorship bid. Calls ex-senator idle blogger. Why Jonathan must support Igbo presidency in 2023, says Ohaneze. Buhari others want too far as MK Obiola's presidential poll opening dies at 74. Nigeria's debt vulnerable, costly, alerts World Bank. And sustained bombings force terrorists to surrender, ACF tells military. Okay, which story?
I've got the major headline. So the New Year celebrations, we know how we spent it, especially here in Lagos, with many people going to the beaches in their hundreds. And experts, virologists are saying that because of the way we threw the COVID-19 regulations out of the window, there's likely to be a surge in infections amongst Nigerians, especially as a lot of people, would be traveling back to their own homes after the celebrations. They said that even though the government had just recently given 400,000 COVID-19 test kits in the last 1 week, the rate of recovery from the virus dropped by 73.2%. And what they also say is so worrying is that Omicron it transmits faster, than the Delta variant and the Alpha variant. And so they're saying government didn't really do its part in enforcing. So some of the front spots, you wouldn't see those who are meant to enforce the number of, 50 or less. All the churches, they said that they were supposed to have just a few number of people. They had the auditoriums packed full with worshippers. So Nigerians, we did wrong over the holidays.
So I want to take this story, human interest story. A man said LASMA thugs brutalized driver, impounds boss, and agency ignores this victim. So the victim has petitioned several times. This happened since last year. A 44-year-old man, he has a minibus in Lagos Island, and then he drove to buy tires at Ladipo. On his way back, he parked at Oshodi, and he said that there were several buses that were parked in that space. He saw they were parked there. His friend wanted to urinate, so he said, okay, I'll wait for you, go and urinate. He was still at the steering. Immediately his friend opened the door. Some thugs jumped on him and told him to give him the key to their minibus. And he said it was obvious that there was yellow buses in front of him and behind him. So it wasn't like he was parked in a place where other people were not doing their businesses and picking up passengers. And they took the bus from him. They beat him up, forcefully took the key, seized this bus and drove it into LASMA, and they drove it into the LASMA office. So it was at that point he confirmed that these thugs were actually working for LASMA, but he said they were not staff. He has petitioned over and over again. The petition got on to the point of Mr. Aquino, and that till date he hasn't gotten his vehicle back, and he's not been compensated for what he did and what they did to him. That is asking, are these thugs, did he do wrong, and can his boss be released back to him?
That's what I cannot stand about agencies. There must be feedback. There must be, human face to everything. Yeah. You cannot write a petition and somebody doesn't reply.
Since April last year.
Since last year. Imagine, that's somebody's livelihood. And they will just continue business as usual when you call out the agency.
All right, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with the review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing Punch. The picture story.
His team visited the blue line along my side from Harcourt to Marina, and the red line from, I think the red line is Magodo to Marina as well. And he issued, according to the Vanguard, not the Punch now, he issued a deadline ultimatum to the contractors to end and finish this project before the last quarter of 2022. And then in Punch, he says he promises that, the rail will come alive by the end of 2022. I'm hopeful of this. This will ease traffic, because the rail is built in such a way that it ends at some major bus terminals, and then so pick off and all of that is going to just ease movement for Lagosians. So most of us that have to drive long distance will have to be able to leave our cars and do so.
I'm so happy that I know somebody a family member we usually go and see the person back then. They live in Agbara. But now, it's so hard because the road is so bad. But with this train
yes, you have an alternative.
Okay, I was going to take the story. The Ohaneze Ndigbo has said that the spirit of the Igbo will work against former President Jonathan if he does not support Igbo presidency, because the suffering that the Igbo people are suffering today is because of the support he gave to the Igbo during his own time. Buhari is suffering. I'm trying to localize the conversation.
Yes, please.
So the Igbo people are suffering today under the Buhari administration because Jonathan was very favorable to
Nigeria. They supported him.
He supported them. He actually supported them. So that he should make sure that he supports Igbo presidency. However, there's a South group that has said that there's a publication going on saying that Jonathan has accepted to run. Said that's not true. They're still doing consultations. They're hoping he would run so that, because he still has 4 years left, and that when he does that, Sao Paulo can go back to the north 4 years. Moving on quickly now to Vanguard 2023 APC PDP Echelons, but a buzz over Jonathan's moves. Buhari, Ganduje, Shekara, ACF, others mourn the ex-NRC presidential candidate Tofa. I remember that song. Nigeria is tough, but Tofa is tougher. He died at the age of 74. Again, no seat at home in Southeast. It's hypocritical for Buhari to sign padded 22 budget and reject the electoral bill, says Wike. Mass rail projects deadline, Sanwo-Olu issues marching order to contractor. Apprehension as legal fireworks may stall installation of new Olubadan pending case. Budget 2022, Buhari Osinbajo to spend 3.087 million on travels. Is it
Billion. It's B.
I didn't say B there.
Ah, it's B.
Okay, widespread cash supply shortage persists in banks. Okay, let's start with the 3 billion naira.
Yeah, so 3 billion naira is going to be spent in the new 2022 budget that the president signed last Friday. About 2.3 billion is going to the president alone, while 778 million will be going for the vice president's travel. The vice president is spending about 476 million on foreign travels and 301 million on his travels within the country. The budgetary allocation also includes the fact that most of the president's fund is going to his foreign travels. In a time when we want to cut costs, they wrote a breakdown of all the other budget, but the real story is that our president and vice president will be spending over 3 billion on travels in 2022 alone. It
sounds like the vice president has somewhat taken out time to maybe review his own budget, because I remember there was much higher than this before. But the presidency, I'm not sure they've been able to do a downward review of their own travel budget. Okay, let's find another story.
In Rivers State, Governor Wike has come again. He said, he said the president, for signing this budget that is heavily padded and unimplementable, is being hypocritical by not signing the electoral bill. Yeah. He said the president himself said this budget is unimplementable, but he went on and he signed what is unimplementable. A budget that would determine the state of the economy, the progress of this nation, and the president knew this thing can't work, and he signed it. Then the Electoral Act, he said he will not sign it because direct primaries was too expensive. Then he goes, what concerns me with party primaries? What concerns the poor people with party primaries? The one that concerns the poor man, businessman, is how to grow the economy. You signed it knowing too well that this will not work. I mean, when he puts it like that, it comes across as being hypocritical, yes.
I sort of agree, because, you know, the padded budgets were criticizing that for the National Assembly for putting so much when they are not the ones to actually execute this whole thing. You know, inflating certain costs and removing certain costs as if you are the people who will be in charge of the execution of the entire thing.
Have you observed that Governor Wike seems to be getting some really smart guys around him these days, because they're bringing out the numbers. The numbers don't lie. He was the one that came up with this whole VAT issue. He started the whole campaign. So there's some people sitting around him, giving him figures, analyzing the numbers. Because the truth is that we're seeing...
He went to court with the VAT.
Yeah, I know. What I'm saying is that we've always known that VAT is there. And what I'm saying is that somebody is analyzing the numbers and saying, listen, let us go by the figures. And if we're going by the figures, and based on what is just analyzed concerning the budget, saying, listen, it doesn't really make any sense for us for you to be
critical about the budget, and you signed it. There are many issues that don't but you chose not to sign it. So what are we saying?
Let's find another story.
No, according to the Vanguard, the entire eastern states, Ebonyi, Enugu, Anambra, even the airports everywhere is agog with economic activities. And it's looking, according to them, that like the airport sits at home after how many days of the order is dead. It's not going to come up again. So I'm hopeful that this maintains.
Business can return, school can resume.
Presently, everybody who is, you know, involved in economic whatever in their different places are back home. And I'm sure that people are more enlightened than to do this.
Let's move on quickly to Daily Sun. Fuel price hike, electoral bill make all more factors in 2022. So these are the key factors as we get into the election year. IPOB presses to stop cow meat in Southeast. New Year shocker. Woman delivers and dumps baby in airplane toilet.
Scary.
2023 AIM briefs Southeast leaders, supporters on presidential ambition on Thursday. Electoral bill, Nigeria not ripe for direct primaries, says IPAC. Buhari Ganduje orders mourn Tofa, ex-presidential candidate in Kano. Lagos blue and red lines rail to commence operations fourth quarter, says Sanwo-Olu. Okay, which story are we taking in South Daily Sun?
The woman who dumped a baby in the airport. So this didn't happen in Nigeria. Okay. Happened in Mauritius. She's a young woman, a 20-year-old woman. The airline operator airport staff had seen a baby boy in the bin in the toilet in Mauritius at the airport, and sort of started to suspected this woman. They did a test and found that she just gave birth, even though she was denying initially. And according to the reports, they are presently stable. Mother and child are being detained and taken care of. I'm hoping that whatever pushed her to try to dump this baby can be resolved. So that
I really wanted to take. Okay, go ahead.
iPod.
Yeah, I want to take that step. But also, should we take that story? I didn't think so. I was going to take it. I was saying, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't take that story.
Let me give it more time. Let me take the story of a bit of good news from federal government in their projection. The federal government targets that by 2030, they would have 95% digital literacy. So there's a unit, the National Information Technology Development Agency, headed by Kashifo Inwa, has created a platform where they train young boys from rural community. These are people that probably would have no interaction with technology, and it was speaking at the recent graduation of 50 children, including 10 Almajiris in the Egusa Global Tech Hub in Kano State. And he said that over the course of 2021, 700 young boys from rural communities have been trained, and that he's so happy that the young Almajiris have also been brought into the system. They are collaborating to get more people, that by the time it's 2030, 95 of our young population would have digital literacy. I think this will be pivotal to help dealing with many other crime, especially if they are empowered to be able to earn from the digital world.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, IPAC is saying that the Inter-Party Advisory Council, they're saying that they are backing the president on his refusal to sign the Electoral Act. That even though that many of us we do not agree with his explanation on security challenges and all the reasons he gave, it will be difficult, however, to disagree with him on the reason of complex logistics and huge financial burden that direct primary elections will imply for INEC. Also, I think it's really it's their prerogative, I guess, to agree or not to agree. But I don't know, do we listen to Nigerians themselves when we have these conversations? Are we doing this for ourselves or for our parties? Or are we doing it for the people of Nigeria?
Right. All right, that's all we can take on Front Page Review. When we return, discuss our hot topic of the day. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So this festive season was happening, and Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State placed an immediate and indefinite ban on all nightclub activities, including nighttime trading, street prostitution in Port Harcourt. According to him, no responsible government should continue to tolerate the open display and solicitation of sexual services, drug abuse, and public intoxication that takes place along the streets and public areas. Now, morally looking, hang in there, morally looking sounds right. But if you think about the freedom of expression, freedom to be yourself, freedom to have a trade, freedom to own a business and run a business, and you think, is he impeding that freedom? That's our conversation today. Please call us on 091-390-76948, 081-270-53687. You can also send us messages on YouTube and Facebook. We'll be happy to read your messages. Now, it's one thing to have an open declaration as a governor. It's another thing to take an issue to the House of Assembly and say, please do a law to ban these things. Because the truth is that people are running businesses. Yes, there's a part of the prostitution, but nightclubs is a business. So what are your thoughts? Do you think it's right for him to make that kind of declaration, or do you think that he could have found another way to go about this?
From the moral
angle.
Yes, from the moral angle, I would clap for. I would applaud it. let me explain. I spent Christmas in Benin with my children, and from my mother-in-law's place, we had to drive to the hotel. And my children saw things that I did not want. Like, I was praying they would sleep. And I'm like, close your eyes, because literally on the road, everything is outside. You know, like, it's Benin, no, we're talking Port Harcourt. But the same happens over there, because when I went to Jeep, I have my other brother also lives in Port Harcourt, and the convention was, this is now is worse. Like, there are red light district that, you know, this street is not a street that you would go on normal days. It's not a transit road. It's a road you go to patronize them. So people that go there are going for business. But now, it's no longer a location that they do these things. It's now everywhere. If you drive at night, just randomly trying to get somewhere, you see, not even night, 7 p.m., they are everywhere displaying themselves. And it goes beyond declaration. Of course, the governor has a right to do what they call sign a executive order. But there also must be a way to provide other things these people can do. There are many young, beautiful young ladies who have seen prostitution as their only way of earning money. If they are given other options, they probably would take it. So the governor just not signing this into law. Give options to these young ladies, especially when it comes to prostitution and drugs, and they go hand in hand. Those must be dealt with.
Okay, let me come to you, Miriam. Your thoughts on this?
Well,
because prostitution is a two-way street, too.
Yes.
I'm providing a service. Somebody's buying for that, paying for that service.
So you've talked about why it's important morally, and I agree with you, completely. But, you know, there's something about just making declarations like this and just dealing with issues at the surface level. There's a reason why this is thriving. Obviously, we have a drug problem in our country right now. We're constantly talking about the Southeast and the youth just, you know, taking all sorts of things. And our girls, he mentions that most of these girls who stand on the streets to offer sexual services, some of them younger than 14. And I'm saying we're talking pedophilia here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we should be arresting some people. Who are those people stopping there to be with these little girls? We need to make sure that there's no market. I mean, if there's nobody paying for these services, then we'll deal with that. So it is one thing to say you close the nightclubs. I agree, and why I don't totally agree with closing nightclubs, because the nightclubs do not necessarily mean that only prostitution, only drug use happens there. But you can have a way to, what's the word now, to, you know, manage it, enforce that some things are put in place to make sure that drug use, in public intoxication, prostitution does not happen there. There are some places they're so aware of how government can clamp down on them, they do not allow some activities to happen in their nightclubs. Nightclub is a business. It's a legitimate business. People go there to hang out for entertainment, to have some drinks. But when it now becomes where children are being used or, you know, in a way to entice customers to come into those places, then that particular nightclub needs to be closed down. Yeah. If there's a story that a particular nightclub offers drugs for people, then that particular nightclub needs to be closed down. But concerning child prostitution, that's a huge, a big crime that needs to be quickly and efficiently, you know, addressed. Yes.
Now, we understand the role of a draconian approach, which sometimes is required in this kind of situation. But as a lawyer, do you think he could have gone about this a different way? Because the truth is that, yes, you need the iron hand. But when a man's business, his business is for adults, right? And when you have a room full of adults, they do different things, right? So you can't say I would close down my business because I'm doing adult activities in my within my rights to do so. So is it right for him to just close it down, or he should find a legal way to close it down?
Governor Wike being moral is applaudable, but there are legal ways to do this that that are more foundational and stronger, sustainable. So what he should have done is propose a bill to the House to completely make these highlighted offenses, which includes refining the modular refineries that that are causing the black soot in Port Harcourt, because the entire thing he reeled out for the new year was there are a lot of laudable things there. It should have been law put a law on ground, make them criminal, and then, you know, so you can penalize or punish people for doing them. That's what he should have done. But maybe he's looking at it taking a longer time to effect. And so in the interim, in the immediate, he does an executive order, which is also good. The problem for me is that there's a way that I'm trying to quote I'm trying to quote a professor that spoke at the DSV, and her name is just not coming this morning. When law is made and it's countered the ways of the people's culture and ways continue to fight at the law.
Culture would always win.
Miriam, you're talking about pedophilia. Sadly, we hate to admit it in the Southwest that these things are common when it comes to open sex. It is when it comes to marriage that you hear the people shout. And even in the East, when some people are shouting, some people say it's okay, there's no problem. It's up north that is a problem. The ways of the people promote, you know, free and prostitution and all of it, the men. So you wonder when this bill comes to the House in Rivers State. I want to see what the House of Assembly, how divided or how united they will be on this if it was a law.
Because this has been debated at the National Assembly level, and we saw the fireworks that happened. They couldn't agree.
This has been a way of life in Port Harcourt amongst the Rivers people for years. And I'm saying it on the show. Young girls, in fact, when we had a young girl, her name was Mary then, and she was like, we were shouting, you get belly, you get belly. She's waiting. And you know what I mean? I don't come out. It was a normal thing. She grew up there, and she was looking at us, we in Lagos, making noise over her head when she came to stay with my best friend's family. What is wrong with you people? You know, these are things that the people themselves need to hate. The House of Assembly need to stand up and represent their people and make sure that the people now start to hate it so that Tokpa will not go to Benin and it will be normal. These things are normal in the Southwest and we just hate to pretend, we like to pretend about it. Southwest and Southeast. I'm talking Benin and trying to link into Port Harcourt at once. These things are too normal there. And I'd like to see the House of Assembly take a stand, representing their constituencies and saying, no, we don't want this again.
If we think of how
when our young girls will be easily taken and will be normal from there to bring them to Lagos in a brothel on Old Ojo Road, and they'll be, and not be Yoruba.
But if we think about how
it's a red district. I grew up knowing Old Ojo Road that you don't go there because they can lure you, they will tell you that if that much you make for there.
There are red light districts all over the world. But the truth is that other countries have somewhat been able to curtail this. How? Economic development, empowerment of people. So this is a fallout of economic deprivation across our country. So, and there are other ways, aside from going to go and make this a law, but shouldn't we begin to see, okay, these people, they don't have job. These people, even those who are selling drugs, it's because some cartel or one godfather is saying, listen, you know, sell this for me, you get $1,000. So there's a huge economic deprivation that is going through the land that people need to be empowered.
So yeah, I agree that there's a need for economic improvements, and that when people have options of clean ways to make money, they probably will not resort to crime if they are just going to make money illegally, and then crime is criminalized accordingly, appropriately, you know. But we also need to have the orientation that will change our culture. We have some cultures that are just that we must expunge. So there needs to be that systematic process that people will now say, this is our way of life. We need to change that culture. And thirdly, the issue of suits is a major one. I cannot sit down here and then we'll just wipe over gloss over it, because my brother-in-law's wife said he's been coughing for years. They've used everything. And in that Christmas weekend that we were in Benin, she did not cough once, because they always have soot. They breathe in soot. And there are many issues that are compounded with it. So it is something we must continue to discuss.
We'll continue this conversation after the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So before we go ahead with our hot topic on Governor Wike's declaration, we have a breaking news from Magodo, Shangisha. We're going to be going live there because we heard that the Residents Association have closed the gates. I think Tokpa even had an issue coming to work this morning. And we'll be speaking with the chairman, Mr. Bajo Oshinobi, who is the chairman of Magodo Residents Association, to tell us exactly what's going on and what their protest is about. So let's see this. Good morning, Mr. Oshinobi.
My name is Bajo Oshinobi.
You're welcome to the show, Mr. Bajo Oshinobi. Yes, sir, we can hear you clearly. So give us an update on what's going on there. Tell us, we're seeing everybody around you. What's happening?
Well, thank you very much. We are here at our gate because 2 weeks ago we had an invasion by Adeiga and Co, aided by the Nigerian Police Force, by detachment of armed Nigerian Police Force personnel. That was exactly 2 weeks from today. They came in, they marked our gates, purporting that they are enforcing the judgment that was given by Supreme Court against Lagos State government in year 2012. You will expect that when the bailiffs come in and effect possession, it's supposed to leave. Strangely enough, the police are still here. The police are here, and my people are apprehensive. We cannot sleep. We are here to tell the world that the Nigerian police, that we have been under siege. That we have been under siege for the past 2 weeks. The police, they mill around, they are tired. They've not gone home, no Christmas, no New Year with their families, and they are restless. Every evening, every morning, they walk up in 2s, 3s, and I'm afraid any of our young ones can have encounter with them, and it can lead to fatalities. I don't want blood of anybody on my hand. So we are appealing to the IG to please withdraw his men. There are 2 issues here. The main one for now is the question of the police presence in Magodo. We hear that the police, the IG is being directed by the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Malami. We do not know the interest of the Attorney General of Nigeria in the affairs of Magodo. The police, I can tell you authoritatively that 2 weeks ago, the DC Ops of Lagos State Police Command was in this estate, spoke to this same crowd that the police will be withdrawn. Sadly enough, he was in this estate till after 6 p.m. that day, and all we heard was that they don't have signal. Signal from where? Not so, which the police here, which means they are not under the control of Lagos State Police Command. They are not under the control of the AIG Zone 2. So they are under the control of the IG. And the IG, I hear, is helpless because he has to take command and he has to take instruction from somebody else. So we know that there are flashpoints, violent flashpoints in Nigeria. Sambisa Forest, Zamfara State, part of the road leading to Akure, and the highways where people are being kidnapped every day. We expect the IG, Attorney General, Mr. Malami, and the IG, and whoever is concerned, to deploy these more than 50 armed policemen to those places, not to a peaceful place like this. What is the interest of the Attorney General and the IG in a case between Adeiga and Lagos State government? We are not really party to it. We are not party to this problem.
Mr. Bajo Oshinobi, let me jump in here for a moment. Have you officially heard from the Lagos State government on this matter?
Yes. Yesterday, Mr. Governor called me and said he's on top of it. He will come in here today or tomorrow and we will make a statement on it. Okay. So we are last Friday, we were in the Lagos State Attorney General's office, and he said he will report. We delivered a letter to him. We delivered a letter to the governor. So we are trying to get the Lagos State government to intervene in this matter. We have built this place with our money. Okay. We have built this place with our money. The last time the Lagos State governor sent somebody to us, in the person of the mayoress of Ikosi, he promised us, the mayoress made a statement. He said, never again. That the governor is promising us that this will never again happen, which means he must have a permanent solution to this problem.
Okay, let me get a few more questions in for you. Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, so I, truly and sincerely sympathize with the residents of the estate. But since we took this up and we've been talking about it, we've been getting lots of messages of people who talk about the rights of the family, to this property or to this land. And I'm wondering, knowing that there's a family and government issue, what exactly would you think would be fair for you and for the family members that own the property?
On the land.
Own the land.
Thank you very much. Family involved in this case. It's not a family. It's an association. It was a Shangisha Landlords Association led by Fadeiga and others. And don't forget that by the judgment, it's the judgment against Lagos State to allocate to them. The judgment is very, 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 the judgment is very, very, very key. Very, very, very key. Allocate to them this portion, this number of plots. It did not give them a right to enter into Magodo and take possession of any land at all. This case is not between us, and we don't want to get involved as an association. We can only encourage people involved to come together and solve the problem. We are victims here. We are not the people that took their land.
Yeah.
There are too many issues.
Right.
The government gave land to us. I hear that even this place was acquired in 1969 and the government paid. Somebody was telling me that even the Adeiga, they are squatters on the land. That if not for corruption in those days, they didn't have any right to this land because the land was acquired and paid for by Lagos State government in 1969, not from Adeiga, from the original owners of the land.
Okay.
So they need to. Okay.
Okay, let me go ahead.
Okay, so essentially, the sort of summation of what you're saying is you desire for the government to get the police out of Magodo Gate. That's the reason. That's the first reason for the protests.
We don't want fatalities. We don't want anybody to die. Anything, when armed people are somewhere, anything can happen. One small boy, whatever can be coming, the police might even be kind of distraught. They'll be here now.
But Mr. Oshinobi, I do recall that the last time when this thing happened, you specifically told us that the police was quite courteous, that they hadn't confronted anybody, and all they did, they just came and they ushered in those people that wanted to demolish. So are you saying something has changed? Have they started engaging the citizens?
Yeah. That was the second day. We talked to them. But, ma'am, I can tell the whole world that a man with a gun is a different ballgame. A man with a gun that is tired. A man with a gun that is restless. A man with a gun that is hungry. I'm sure most of them has not eaten food from their families for more than 3 weeks. They have been sleeping in the open. They have been looking for what to eat. It's not a normal. It's not a normal thing to do, and they are restless. Okay. Anything can happen, and we don't want bad things to happen in our lives.
Right. Okay, we have to wrap up. Let me go ahead.
We really appreciate and understand what is going on, but some of us that we are residents today, we had to walk. Before I could get on this show today, I had to. My driver left my driver in the car and walked all the way to the gate. Took a bike to get to the office so I can be here. And the reason I did that was because I realized that I had more voice here than being locked up protesting at home. And what's MRA doing to ensure that emergencies, people that need to get to school, people that need to get to work, their livelihood isn't threatened by their choice to be inside Magodo? How are you finding that balance so that you don't make enmity within your community?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that you have to work, but that is sacrifice for where you live. Don't forget that it's food and shelter that they say is the most important in the human for the human being to live. If you go to work and you have no house to come back to, how will you feel? If you're outside by the time you come back from work, what will you do? We know our people, this is sacrifice. We are trying our best. Intermittently, we allow people to go out. What we are trying to do is that whatever our sacrifice is,
Right.
we must do this for our own well-being. We must do this so that by the time we come back home, we have a place to sleep. We must do this for safety. We must do this because we don't want anybody to get killed. We must do this because we want the police out of our estates.
Right.
It's not that it's not that we don't have work. I can tell you there are a lot of people here, managing directors, doctors, retirees, lawyers, senior lawyers. They are here. All of us are here. There's nobody that lives in Magodo that is not important to us. But emergencies are allowed to.
Right.
If we know that there's something
Point taken.
that needed to be, we are.
Point taken, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Oshinumi, for joining us this morning. We appreciate your thoughts on this. And we look forward to the government's intervention because based on what you said, we're expecting the governor or someone from the government to come to Magodo either today or tomorrow to address the residents, so to show that indeed they're on top of this matter. And we'll continue to monitor that story from this angle. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, see some comments and continue our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're going to go back to our conversation with on the Governor Wike's declaration saying that he was banning all the red light districts, the nightclubs. Now, the issue of drug abuse is something we've discussed frequently on this table. And we are asking governors across board to take really strong decisions like this because, this is something that is almost as though it's getting out of hand. Now, understanding the need to curb the widespread of substance abuse and drug abuse, how else could the governor have done this? I mean, especially the nightclubs are places where these things are usually enough used by artists. So as much as it's a running business, how do we therefore regulate what they're doing within the confines of the club? Nightclubs?
Me. NDLA operatives in plain clothes in these areas to keep an eye. Knowing that people are watching you, you could be arrested. Simple. Finish.
But it has to, first of all, drug is even against the law. For that of the Child Rights Act is against the law, and I think Rivers already domesticated long ago.
Yes.
So Wike already has just little to do. But for the prostitution of an adult, you need to then engage these business owners and make that business in itself illegal for you to even enforce them. In the meantime, these are not things that we promote, and if your business is engaged in these kind of things that our states find or we're averse to in this state, we are going to curtail your businesses, we are going to lock up and all of that, and see how that engagement would work. In Lagos, it's where it is a crime. Some places there's no enforcement. I am tired of how Old Ojo Road is not a red light district. It is not.
But it's been forever.
It is highly residential. That's the core of Amodo itself. But
I thought it was in Benin.
No,
growing up in Jos, which always hear of Allen.
I live there.
Yes,
so is it still that way, or have government?
Allen used to be a red light district.
Allen is still.
Third gate is supposed to be one, but it's not. It is not enforced, and you see people promoting it. So our people need to hate this thing. We need to see the damage and the danger that this thing poses to our people, and then put in the law. That way, it will be easy for the law itself to be enforced by anybody. So now, if you they'll say, when I was hungry, did you ask what I was eating? That you are not asking what I am doing now that I have money. A lot of things like that. I'm just.
So I think that it's a carrot and stick approach. There must be orientation to let people understand this is harmful, this is what you're doing wrong, and then there must be punitive measures right by the side that says this is If you are found with this, you'll be dealt with like this. We know the source. We know these things spread in specific locations. So what Governor Wike did was to target where do these things spread out from. The average person that goes clubbing drives. If you make it compulsory, and they don't go to club and drink water, they go to club and drink alcohol. So if we say no driving when you are going to, things that if people refuse to use their brain, you spoon feed them. With children, you need to guide them. You look at all the other issues that might happen if we allow drunk drivers continue this way, or all the things that will happen if we allow drug abuse. See the story we took on the man that smoked, that took the meth and killed his siblings. You know, so because we want to prevent other things from happening, we might seem harsh. The story we took on Magodo, as a resident, I felt that it was harsh because you're not letting me go out of my house. But there are more issues on ground, and so we might make the sacrifices now. We cannot continue like this. Of course, the prostitution will still be among us. It's one of the oldest trade. We can't take it out completely, but we must make it not attractive. We must not let young people think that that's the only way to make money.
Let me take this call from Asaba. Mimi, are you there? Hello, Mimi, are you there? Please join the conversation. Go ahead, you're live.
Okay, thank you. I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you. I want to comment on this community issue because I feel, apart from the guys that are doing drugs and the girls that are doing prostitution, there are still other people that are working jobs that are like cleaners or people that are fed to customers in the bar. These are legitimate work jobs that people can do. And if you ban nightclubs now, what are the people going to be doing? So I think there should be a measure in place that can create the kind of employment opportunity with people in case of when it comes to closing up the nightclubs so that you can have other alternatives or other jobs that you can do. So that's just my contribution.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
When we look at economic empowerment and say, so the alternative is to allow free will of this. This is how gradually drug became acceptable. Some people considered it an economic empowerment to peddle or, you know, to sell or to even import these things. And then little by little, the damage that it poses was watered down. It would just be like, as long as I'm making money, I don't think that's what our caller is saying. No. What was he saying?
No, I don't think that saying that to allow nightclubs is also saying we should allow drug peddling. They are two different things. Nightclubs, we have caterers, we have people selling drinks. You can have a decent nightclub where only legal activities are carried out. But then you can also have people who introduce all these illegalities to make more money and things like that. So the government, this is where the government comes in. The government's role really is to make sure that you carry out your business within, you know, the ambit of the law. You know, put it that way.
Thank you.
Good. So we need to make sure that we put things in place that Nigerian citizens are doing things the right way. But to say stop nightclubs so that there's no drug peddling, I don't think.
So drug peddling is a crime already. We're having problem enforcing it.
Abi.
We have certain business owners who look away when they should look and say, this is not allowed in my business place.
Exactly.
This is a crime. Please don't bring it here. Where you see a person...
But you want their money. You want the money.
You want the money. You want to make that money. And so you can't put your foot down and do business legitimately.
Right.
You lock down the business. You're forced to do the right thing.
Yes, because you risk losing your business.
So to say that he will lose money and then allow him when you know he will look away at a crime that you know already is law and popular everywhere, he's not a serious businessman. You lock down the business. So you can't think of his economic empowerment.
Do you have any messages on
before we wrap up again, let me go back to the suit situation. So Governor Wike has complained several times concerning this suit, saying that law enforcement agencies, that JTF, people in power, are culpable. That it's impossible to smuggle crude oil to where it is being illegally refined without anybody seeing what is going on. So when people who are supposed to help out in enforcing the law are culpable and the governor is calling them out to their face and it's still ongoing and people's lives are being put at risk, you see the result of what is happening in Port Harcourt with the suit, you will see it in the next 10, 15 years because there will be several cases of cancer. You cannot, you can't sit with that level of pollution and then people make it their business. You cannot do a business profiting yourself and impoverishing and killing other human beings. It is unfair as human beings that are running those businesses. So let us tell ourselves the truth. Don't wait for them to shut you down. You by yourself, shut yourself down.
So Port Harcourt people, you people are the ones, you know these people.
Exactly.
This
they are your relatives.
Rather than do this, put a sensitization out there on how damaging What is the life span of a person living in a clean environment, like from Miriam's book, and the person living in a polluted environment?
Let me take Inse,
and tell your people
Come
to
on,
do the right
let's
thing
take a few
to
messages
fight.
on Facebook. Okay. Inse, are you there?
Can you hear?
Hello, Inse, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear? I'm hearing you well.
Okay, go ahead, you're live.
Okay, please, it's so sad that we are having politicians, the house is burning, and they are leaving how to save the house to chase rats inside a burning house. Okay. It's very sick. I am not a supporter of anything called prostitution. But prostitution is not what is not those things that are not giving us light in this country. Prostitution is not what is really causing the insecurity across the country. The politicians should face the real thing. Governor Wike is one of the governors that I admire so much because of his boldness in speaking out in a lot of things. How can he be talking about closing down nightclubs? Some of those clubs, many families are relying on it.
Yeah, bartenders.
Why can't he put up a mechanism that should be able to checkmate the act of prostitution? Many of them, the politicians, are they not patronizing these prostitutes in different ways, though not the ones in the nightclub? We should not be exposing our hypocrisy.
So
like
we're majoring in minor, because the truth is that these politicians are also part of the customers of the high-profile prostitutes. I hear you, in the sense, but it doesn't negate the real activity.
We have to start from somewhere. So that bartender, that cleaner, staff member who all work there,
all of them should do their
all
job.
of them should do something about this evil. We spotted an evil. Yeah. Pedophilia and all of that, drug peddling, we've spotted this. Are we going to say because you people now have an economic life around this, let's just leave it and be managing it? And then we'll end up with a society in 10 years that we cannot handle, like where we are now. This is how Yahoo started. Some people thought, okay, they're just taking back. But now, where we are now is such an embarrassment to the nation. We cannot continue to turn a blind eye.
Let me quickly just say this. I want to always say, and I like to, because of consistency's sake, I always feel like our government tends to sort of do, where we cannot help a situation, because we don't know how to help the situation, we transfer the problem to the people, which is similar to what the governor is doing. I can't help the situation, so we shut it down. We cannot help importation of rice coming in through border, so we close down the border. Okay, so we cannot help the case of corruption within our subsidy payments, so we stop subsidy and push the problem to the people. It really isn't right, but I have gone to that place where I'm tired of saying, because you're having a headache, don't cut off the head. Because very soon now, the head is getting rotten. So if the solution might be to cut off the head, let us cut it off and see if the rotten head will stop other bodies from getting bad.
Doesn't that amount to throwing the baby out to the bathwater?
At this point, we might have to throw a lot of babies out to the bathwater.
Wow. Listen, the situation is tough.
No, the truth is, if you do not handle it properly, you will always have this situation. You have to be ready to do the hard work. What we're talking about is that people are unwilling to do the hard work. There's no willpower to pursue it the right way. You cut off the different heads. What will be left?
The easy way out is always the first line of action. Okay, we have to wrap up on this, I'm sorry, because we have to bring in our next guest. But I think in summary, we understand the moral obligation of the governor to reduce the use of drugs, prostitution, pedophilia. We understand that very clearly. At the same time, we think it should be done properly because businesses are involved and we're in a democracy, right? It would be great to have this military regime where you can make this draconian law and suddenly things turn around. But hey, it's a democracy. You go through the courts, you go through the House of Assembly to change the laws, and then you enforce. And then you also ensure your people are economically empowered because then you don't make these streets attractive for young people to go to. So there are different ways of
money in the treasury that is meant for their education.
On this. I'm told we have Vera who just called in now. Vera, are you there? Hello, Vera, are you there?
Hello, yes. Good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show, Vera.
Yes. I want to speak about the ban on the club.
Yes.
Yes. And the thing is, I work within the axis where this particular ban was made. And I will tell you that the governor did right. But though the issue is this, even if you ban them from the street, there are other, prostitution houses within Port Harcourt. You see these ladies, they have a house, is built, men go there to do, whatever they want to do. So I think the governor should also look into that. Even if you stop them from the street, they have their, houses where their customer comes to. You see minors are there, So I think the governor should work on that also.
Thank you.
And by doing so, you find out that it will make them stop those on the street and those, housing these people. It will also stop, and it will make them to want to do illegal things, to survive. And for those calling, saying that is a myth for one to, families are surviving through them, I think is wrong. While, like for me, I will tell you that I graduated and for over 2 years I didn't have a job. I didn't resort to prostitution. So I don't think that one should say because there is nothing to do. And I was actually looking for anything to do, even as a graduate. So I think that people should stop looking at using their body and all the rest. Right. Although it's not only for the women. Men also do it.
Right.
The men also do it. They stay on the street. Women, come to meet them. So I think it's a good thing.
Thank you very much, Vera.
The governor is doing.
So she lives in River State, so you can hear from her to say that, listen, what the governor is doing is right. Thank you very much, Vera, for your comments. I see it's always good to hear from people who are directly affected by this community. So she knows that the areas the governor is referring to. And it's important that these kind of drastic measures are taken because it's beyond the fact that she's even saying that...
Don't you think someone like her should be engaged to teach young girls about their own dignity so that this is not a trait somebody proposed to her, to a young girl?
Yeah, in
the
the perfect world, where you see there are lots of Veras who are hustling to make ends meet within their own space. They are trying to get children's fare, their school fees. So
but I get you. You don't always have to have a big platform. Yeah. She may be doing a lot already in her community, in her neighborhood. Yeah. They know that that is Vera that would never do this sort of thing. Exactly. She's using her life as an example, and sometimes that's enough.
But she doesn't have the big house that the prostitute has. Because that's what she's saying. They have brothels. They have this beautiful, they build this beautiful house. They have the younger prostitutes.
The people at the brothels, they come from communities, neighborhoods, their relatives, their people's children, sisters. So.
Anyways, we have to wrap up. Thank you, ladies. Let's go on a break. It's Tuesday. We can but have a health topic. And COVID-19, Omicron is in the building. You're right back.
That was really bad.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, the country's first fight against COVID-19 is still very much on. We have with us the Director, Disease Control and Immunization at the National Primary Health Care Development Agency. And the agency is responsible for the managing of our vaccine program. We have with us Dr. Basi Oposen. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Yes. So before we even go ahead into COVID-19 and the updates, we read recently that they had to destroy millions of vaccines that were brought into the country because it expired. How are we doing with vaccines right now? How do we ensure there's no repetition of this going forward where we have to destroy vaccines? Is it that people are not taking it, or is it that it wasn't properly distributed? What happened that it caused that destruction of the vaccines?
Okay. I know this is going to be an interesting discussion. When you initially say we are going to discuss Omicron, I heard how we all laughed. And for the vaccines specifically that you have mentioned, I think I want to first of all start by sincerely commending His Excellency the President, the Minister, the Secretary of Government, the Executive Director of the agency, Dr. Faisal, for the effort they are making us, supporting us not to allow vaccines waste in Nigeria. Recall, we started vaccination around March. We've had several vaccines that have come in. The thing that has been happening is that these vaccines come with very short shelf life. And the ones that came in March, April, May, we've always exhausted what has come in. that particular batch of vaccine that came in with 7-week shelf life, about 2.8 million doses. And we know our daily consumption rate. When the vaccine came in with 7 weeks shelf life, of course, NAFDAC, we can't use it immediately. We'll also have to do the analysis and ensure that these vaccines are safe before we give to Nigerians. Recall again the fact that as a nation, we don't buy is from the COVAX facility and donations from the civilized world that sent to the country. So when they sent that particular batch that came in from the word go, we had told them that the quantity that was coming in, the executive director made it very clear, the minister made it very clear that that batch was short. We are going to have just 3 weeks to use in country. And why I consulted with commending our principals for the support they are giving to make sure that we use the vaccines, because in most other countries, the wastage would have been more than that. We use more than 70% of that vaccine. Okay. The prediction when they even gave us that particular batch was that we will not use up to 40%. Wow. But we made use of up to 70%. And again, recall, as a country, the day it was close to the expiry date, we stopped using the vaccine because we need to have the best for our people. Right. And for now, as a country, we don't receive any vaccine that has less than 6-month expiry date, Great. Not the 3 months or the 6 weeks or so.
All right.
Okay, I'm just wondering, they say beggars can be choosers. Since we are begging for it, can we tell them exactly what to give us? But going back to Omicron.
Omicron?
Omicron.
I'm just joking.
So the papers today talked about Nigerians just flouting all the guidelines that we need, that we were meant to follow, and the fear that there will be a surge. But also, many Nigerians are looking at it and saying, see, even when we get sick, we don't get that sick. Should we really be worried? Even when it happens to us, there's really nothing much. We'll just be down maybe for 2 days and we're up and running.
Okay. Look at it this way. The variants are coming one after the other. We can recall when the Delta variant hits India, what happened in India. That particular variant was terrible for India. People were collapsing on the streets and dying. Yes, Omicron has come. We can see the waves in some other countries, how people are already closing up and not allowing people to go out. We need, as a nation, to achieve herd immunity so that if for any reason we are exposed to any variant, we know the severity for any reason will be less. We don't know what variant will come tomorrow, because knowing that pandemics like the COVID-19 come in waves, looking back at history, we don't know which other variant that will come, that the severity will be the type that will be dangerous for Nigerians. I want to plead with Nigerians, we shouldn't take this thing for a joke, because I've had opportunity to talk with some people who say, is this COVID-19 really a real? I've had opportunity to talk to people that are even enlightened, and they're telling me, oh, if the vaccines you are having are good, why should we be taking more than 2 doses of vaccine? And sometimes I tell people, one, we need to achieve herd immunity. Once we achieve herd immunity as a nation, definitely, whatsoever strain of the virus come, we will not have superiority disease. 1, 2, mutation will also be less in our country. 2, right. Going back to the history of why do we need to take more than 1, 2 doses? Go back to history. Polio vaccine is a virus that causes polio. The vaccine, we give our children the birth dose, that is 0 dose. We give them the first dose at 6 weeks. We give them the second dose at 10 weeks. We give them another one at 14 weeks. Then we give supplemental one that follows. It's a virus. In measles also, we are giving our children measles vaccine. Once you give 100 children measles vaccine, 85% of them develop 100% immunity at first administration. You give them an opportunity for a second dose, you have 95% of them develop. A third opportunity, 98% of them develop herd immunity. So, all right, guys, Nigerians, these vaccines we are having are safe. We need to protect our nation and return back to normalcy.
Okay, go ahead.
What is the PTF, that's Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, what are they doing exactly to ensure that the restrictions, especially on crowding of events places, are curbed and enforced. Because what we saw in December is that we sold out every event, places, and,
Dirty December.
And we dirty the December, And it seemed like government officials just on the blind eye. Are we really fighting? Are we really enforcing the restrictions? Or are we just paying lip service so that when we come, we say people should and leave them to
it? Thanks for this question. I was listening to the session just before this session, what is happening in Rivers. Once there's an enforcement, you hear more persons kicking against the enforcement. You hear more saying, we don't want this to happen. The Presidential Steering Committee, chaired by the Secretary of Government of the Federation, is doing a lot, being supported by Mr. President. They are trying to do a lot of things. We have started with the workspace, where the mandate is there. If you're a federal civil servant, please take your vaccine so that you don't come to the workplace and pollute others. We need healthy workers. You bear me witness, a lot of people are already talking on that. They have engaged, the PSA have engaged the governors who are the chief law enforcement officers in their states. And me and you know what is going on in the various states, in states that even the governors are trying to enforce things to happen. A lot are happening. But I want to plead with Nigerians, we have a role to play. One, let's believe that we can help ourselves, we can help our nation. If the government is saying, let's avoid crowds, let's not go for large gatherings, let's not organize large gatherings, it's human beings that organize these gatherings. Let it start from us Nigerians. We organize our events, taking into consideration the protocols that we have. If it's a church, we have the normal spacing, one space before the other, like I've been advised. If the mosque, the same thing. It's a wedding, we make it few number of persons using a large space, and then people coming in with their face masks. At the gate, you have the sanitizers, you have the provisions for them to wash their hands. It is for us Nigerians to help ourselves and help our nation. And that's why I really want to put it this other way, that we Nigerians should respect these policies
Dr.
that
Bassey,
put in place.
Do you think, because I'm based on what you just said, and I just picked up something which is the obvious, but I'm not sure it's been really properly reiterated. The fact that the government is trying to achieve this herder immunity. So one of their strategy, it seems, is to enforce civil servants across the country to get vaccinated. So at least those are the people that are within the authority of the government. And if they get these people, all of them, to be vaccinated, maybe we can begin to have a closer approach to the herder immunity that they're looking to achieve. Now, that is in itself is not being communicated to the people, because we watch international news. Recently, I think they just enforced, I watched on CNN that they enforced that before you enter any restaurants, you have to have your vaccination cards. And they tell you the reasons, what they're trying to achieve. So we see the beginning to the end. But here they just say, federal government says, if you're a civil servant, you must enter, you don't enter the office without a card. Finish. Nobody's giving us the reasoning. Nobody's explaining to Nigerians. They're saying us the end product. So once you come, that's to get that buy-in. So we're not getting a full spectrum of what we're trying to achieve. And when you don't do that, Nigerians don't get it. They just feel like you're making up these draconian laws and saying you must be vaccinated once you're a civil servant. So do you think there's a gap in how we are communicating this issue of getting vaccinated to Nigerians?
Okay. Thanks for this question. And I want to say thank you to TVC for giving us this opportunity to also use it to plead to Nigerians. You know, when you come to the federal government offices, a lot of things are going on to enforce this. But we shouldn't allow us to get to this point. If we understand the basic fact that if 70% of the eligible adults in Nigeria take vaccine, we will achieve herd immunity as a nation. And once we achieve herd immunity, it can stop transmission of the virus within our community, within our nation. Now, in the workplace, a lot is going on already for the civil servants. if you are entering or going to any of the offices, in fact, I'll give you an instance. In some of the offices, federal government offices, they have even changed their cards. From the gate, if you are not fully vaccinated, you cannot have access to their doors and offices. A lot is happening. We have had, and at the gates, you have the vaccination post being mounted there. It's either you take the vaccine or you show your PCR negative test within 72 hours, or you take the vaccine. If not, you go back home. You see, we, as a country, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be forced. I want to use the opportunity given to us to beg Nigerians, please, COVID-19 is real. The easiest way out for us as a nation is for us to achieve herd immunity. And from research, the fastest way to achieve herd immunity is through vaccination. I'll give you this illustration. If, as I'm here in Lagos, Abuja, I want to come to Lagos to TBC and visit TBC, I can decide to trek. Somebody trek during the election. I can decide to come with bicycle. I can come with a bus. I can come with an aeroplane. I'll be a wise person to take the option of coming with an aeroplane because I will reach there faster, visit, and then return back to do some other things. My trekking there or using motorcycle to come to Lagos, I'm not going to prove anything. A nation that will not achieve herd immunity will take them up to 10 years or above from infection and reinfection to achieve herd immunity. But once a nation is achieved 70% herd immunity, in 1 to less than 2 years, they can achieve herd immunity.
Right.
So for us as a nation, it's for us not to allow those forces like the government are saying doing this, and gradually we are extending it to the private sector. Also, visitors that are coming into the offices of government, if you don't have the card, you don't enter. What the PSC, like you asked earlier, is also doing is advocating to the governors to do same in their own states.
Okay.
So I think that there is a testing challenge. The cost of testing is high. Not many people can afford to, even when they have symptoms. So even the numbers we see, as enlightened people, we feel is not a true reflection. The average person will feel like, how many people say in all this our million, only 100 of something are getting it. But they don't know that we are not testing enough to have a clear figure. What exactly would you say is a challenge with our testing? How can we make testing more affordable? A lot of people have turned it into huge business, and they are making it so expensive to test, which is not, you should profit, but you shouldn't profit at the detriment of a country that needs to get out of this pandemic properly. What do you think the government can do to help reduce the cost of testing and then intervene to make testing more available for the citizens?
Okay. My agency, led by Dr. Faisal Schwab, is responsible for vaccination. You bear with us, vaccination. We are doing our best to ensure that it remains free to all Nigerians. Our sister agency, the NCDC, is responsible for testing. I think these are discussions that are ongoing, and I can assure you after this meeting, I'm sure they're also listening. We'll still take up a discussion with them through our Chief Executive, Dr. Faisal, to see, like you rightly put, how these charges for testing can be reduced and made affordable to Nigerians so that we can have more testing. You see, the same thing that is happening with testing is an option that would have happened with vaccination. When the vaccination, we got the first few doses, we had a lot of pressure. The executive director, the minister had a lot of pressure that the vaccine should not be free and we should be so. And of course, the executive director and the minister stood firm and said, as far as COVID-19 vaccine is concerned, it will be free to all Nigerians. And so it is still today. And they don't have any plan for anybody to pay for vaccination. It will remain free. So what you've said is right. There's limitation to people not going for the testing. We'll also still take up this discussion with NCDC to see how our sister agency can also work on this to bring it down.
Recently, I had someone who took the second vaccination already contact COVID. And so the argument started, and those who didn't want to take the vaccine had an excuse, a strong one for that matter, to say that the vaccines were not effective. What do you have to say to this?
Okay. You know what I will say to this? I will just use a simple illustration. A child who has taken measles vaccine before and contacts measles again, right? Remember I mentioned earlier, if you give 100 children first dose of measles, 85% of them will develop lifetime immunity. They will never come down with it. 15 are still left.
Okay.
If you give them a second opportunity, 95 of these 100 will develop 100% immunity. The difference between the child who has taken measles vaccine before and the one who has never taken measles vaccine, when they contact the virus, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
For a child who has taken the vaccine before, the child will just come with mild fever, mild rashes, still playing, go to school. But a child who has never taken the vaccine before, you will be begging that child to eat. And of course, other things that happen. So the same thing with COVID. COVID is a virus.
Dr. Bassi, based on the example that you just said, how many vaccines does a child take for measles? Because now we're having third booster and all of that shot. So the argument continues for those who are against vaccination.
Give us an example of polio.
Okay, look at it this way. Measles, we now officially, before, remember, it was only one dose. But now officially for measles, we have 2 doses.
Yeah.
And then a booster at 5 years.
Yes.
Then for polio, remember for now, for children polio, for a child to be fully vaccinated, polio is a virus that causes it. For a child to be fully vaccinated, it will take 4 oral, 1 IPV injection, 5 doses. We are just starting with the COVID vaccine. The COVID vaccine, first dose from the research is showing about 62 to 67 protection. You give a second dose, it goes about 80 to 89. So with the booster that is coming in, it gives opportunity. And remember, the vaccines that we're having now, and I will give you a statistic, if you look at the NCDC website, to confirm this other fact that it is the same pattern of what we are seeing in measles, is the fact that 91% of mortality, like we have, as of today, we have 3,050 persons that have died in Nigeria, officially recorded, and 244,120 cases reported. Of course, me and you know is underreporting, we have more than that, but for death, we have the 3,050 persons that have died. 91% of these persons that have died are people who have never taken the vaccine. The remaining percent of people are those who are taking one dose not yet complete and have comorbid conditions. About only 0.5% are people that have taken like 2 doses. And of course, with a booster dose, it gives a greater opportunity. I will advise people, I'll give you another example. I have a friend, a colleague, classmate in those days who is a CMD in a big reference hospital. When I asked him to take the vaccine when the first dose came, he refused. We sent vaccines to their hospital. 60% of their staff took the vaccine, 40% did not take. When that hospital, let me use the word in quote, was visited by COVID, 80% of those persons that did not take the vaccine were down with the virus, and they lost 9 of their staff.
Wow.
None of the staff that took the vaccine was admitted. He was the one that ran away from the hospital. He was now looking for the vaccine. I had a call from him. I had won the vaccine. I said, you want the vaccine? He said, what happened now? What has changed? He now gave me the statistics. I said, so what makes you believe that? I said, because among the 60% of my staff that took the vaccine, none of them is down with the COVID. I have lost this number of personnel. I don't want to happen again. I need the vaccine. He saw it from his end. I've also seen so many friends who have taken their vaccine. They now tested positive. All they have done is to confine themselves to their homes for the period until they are tested negative again. The beauty of taking the vaccine is, once you take the vaccine, it stimulates the antibodies in your system. Once these antibodies are stimulated, the day the person is now faced with the real virus, there are enough antibodies in the system to fight the live virus, and the person will not come down with the severity of the disease. And for some of the people that have already developed full immunity from it, from the first, second dose vaccination, they will just test positive and nothing will happen to them.
Okay, Dr.
Why we still advise people, yes, please.
This issue of the booster, so there are different, people are asking about we saw the governor take the booster, we saw the president take the booster, but it's not readily available across board. People are having difficulty finding it. So how available are these boosters in Nigeria at this time?
Thank you for this question. As of today, we have received in country about 35 million doses of the vaccine, and then we have another 50 million doses, 55 million doses are waiting to receive. We have already been allocated. It's for the vaccines to come in. We have enough vaccines. Just last week, the agency has sent enough vaccines to all the states. Please, we want to know any of the states that will say they don't have these vaccines. We'll really willingly and be happy to follow up with those states to know why they are saying they don't have, because even last week they have been given additional Pfizer vaccines, and then this week also the Moderna has also been sent to the state. We have enough vaccine. On behalf of my ED, I can make bold to tell Nigerians that as at this moment and for the rest part of the year, we have enough commitment allocation that can give us both our first, second doses and also the booster doses. We have enough.
Okay, so, could you also help us clarify if you took the AstraZeneca or a different one, you can take booster shots of another different vaccine?
For now, the AstraZeneca vaccine company itself, once you take, like you are specific about AstraZeneca, if you take a first dose, you take a second dose, the study so far is that if you want to take a booster, let it be of a Moderna or Pfizer. For them, the 2 doses is enough for now, and their research have not yet come up to confirm they can give a 3rd dose of the Pfizer. If you have taken Pfizer as first dose and Pfizer as a second dose, it is Pfizer you will also take as a booster. If it's Moderna, it is Moderna you take as first dose, it's Moderna you take as second dose, it's the same Moderna you take as a booster dose after 6 months. The J&J initially was 1 dose, but from available research and statistics where it's available now, after the first dose, 2 months after, the person is supposed to take another one called the booster. So invariably, it's like having 2 doses of Johnson & Johnson now.
Right.
But whichever of the combinations of these vaccines or whichever of the vaccines that you are taking, we have enough evidences in country now. For instance, the chairman of the Primary Care Board in Lagos, the Professor Shubogun, who was also the CMD of Lutz, of course, we know he's a renowned public health physician, and 6 other professors across the country, the 6 geopolitical zone, have done a research already to see the vaccines we are taking in Nigeria, how effective these vaccines are. You can check it online and see what is showing, what the result is showing.
Okay, sir.
Very positive result, the action to the vaccines that we are taking in Nigeria.
We have 2 questions from YouTube, but I want to get it right because I heard another information from another person who is also a public health person, and the person said that if you took AstraZeneca first and second dose, you can take Pfizer as your 3rd dose, but that if you took Pfizer, you must continue with Pfizer, and if you took Moderna, you must continue with Moderna. So I wanted to just be sure that was what you said, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the question we have 2 questions from YouTube. One person is asking, is it safe for a breastfeeding woman to take the vaccine? That's number 1. Number 2, someone else is asking that there's something, there's the COVID pill, the pill you take. That are we going to get that into Nigeria? And what would you say concerning taking the pill?
Preventive?
No, curative.
Curative.
Well, let's start with the
pregnant woman,
the lactating woman. As of today, across the country, 10,800,000 Nigerians have received first dose. And among this number, about 4,600,000 of them have received their second dose. And then we have had 81,032 who have received the booster as of today, as of this morning. Of this, there are also lactating mothers, pregnant women, significant number of them who have taken this vaccine along with others. We've not had any negative report because the person is lactating mother, the person is pregnant woman. This is what happened to the person. So, of course, our policy for now is very clear. There is no restriction to lactating mother or pregnant mother. If there are other conditions that the person is not strong enough and feel will not want to take the vaccine for XYZ reason, right? That is at the discretion of the person's physician. But for a normal breastfeeding mother, pregnant woman, nobody is stopping because the policy does not say we should not give them. So the statistics from what we have also is not pointing towards the direction that they should not benefit. Yeah. It is better to also protect them because if for any reason they come down with the COVID, like I will tell people, one of the questions you've not asked me yet, like some will say, the side effect. Now, for COVID, we've recorded about 14,000 something, and most of them are mild, from headache to weakness, or maybe abdominal pain, some 1-2 days diarrhea, pain at the site of vaccination, which is the commonest. And I ask people, ordinary milk, fish, meat, that is to make human being grow well. There are some people, if they take those things, the next minute they are in the hospital bed.
Right.
So now, if you say because of pain at the injection site, you will not take COVID-19 vaccine, then try isolation center.
Okay, let me get a few more questions in for you.
So when we talk about vaccines and testing, I think it's only natural for us to find out what we're doing as a country towards localizing our treatments for pandemic. And we've had pandemics come, maybe every 10 years, every 20 years. What are we putting in place now? Is there anything that you see the government is doing today that gives you hope that maybe the next pandemic, Nigeria will be right on top of things and we don't have to depend on donations, to...
And I'd like to add to that, because I remember in the thick of this COVID, we're hearing stuff about, we're collecting samples, or they're asking for people to bring in their, was it samples of...
Yeah, local
for NAFDAC, they're submitting...
Yes, we had local remedies, and then we had people that were submitting their blood, those that were the first set to get out of, that went through, they got COVID and survived. Antibodies.
Yeah. So can you give us an update on that, and if we're doing anything local to combat this virus?
Yeah, the president, PAC, the minister, the ED, and all the relevant authorities are actively working on this. I'm sure we are aware of the Vaccine Day in Lagos. They are undergoing the clinical trials of the vaccine. I'm sure we will soon be proud of ourselves as a nation. The team is working so hard. There was a budget in 2021, and there's also a budget in 2022 to support that production, where as a country we will also have our vaccine. So the ministry is working on that, and we will have ours come out. We also use as a nation. So it's on trial.
All right, we have to wrap up. Thank you, Dr. Bassi. We need some good news, so I'm really looking forward to this. It's been great to have something to celebrate, that we have our own vaccine and remedies for...
We'll be the guinea pig for testing.
At least we'll have our own.
You know what? But before I go...
Yes, sir.
I want to ask, is there any of the good ladies in that studio that is yet to take the vaccine?
We have all taken.
We're waiting for the booster.
We're waiting for the booster. We've all taken the vaccines. First and second.
The booster is available. And
I called my own local government. They told me last week that it wasn't available, but I don't want to put them on the spot yet. Let me call them again today. If they now tell me it's still not available, I'll call you back. But as of last week, they told me it wasn't available.
Please, if we have that call, we'll call the permanent secretary immediately to respond, right?
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Bass. It's been a pleasure.
And to use the opportunity to reassure Nigerians, just to reassure Nigerians, please don't allow anybody to deceive you that there's no COVID-19. It's real. The vaccine is effective. It's safe. The president, the minister, the executive director, Dr. Faisal, are doing their best to make sure that we have good vaccines available to give to you free of charge.
Please,
if you are yet to take your vaccine, go and take the vaccine now.
Thank you very much. That was very reassuring. Thank you. We've been hearing from the Director, Disease Control and Immunization of the National Primary Health Care Development Agency, Dr. Basi Oposen. I mean, he told us that we have about 30 million right now. We're expecting 50 million vaccines. Come on, man. Get your vaccines.
Please.
What's your excuse?
What are you waiting for? Nothing.
Let's not throw any of this
away. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Where you expire yourself? 6 months you have.
Exactly.
See you tomorrow. Bye for now.